What's your age?
This guy's interesting here. This is Chad, by the way. He doesn't say his name, but this is Chad for sure. So we're gonna watch this guy. We're gonna talk about it. And we're gonna break down what he's saying as we go.
26.
What do you wish men would stop doing in relationships?
I think men keep looking. Even if they have like a perfect female, they always like keep looking. And I know a lot of my friends, like they'll have like a perfect female, very traditional, where they cook, they clean, like they do everything for them. And they'll still put that off for like some like one night stand.
Yeah, so he's coming at this from a Chad perspective. This is Chad's perspective, okay? I'm sure all his friends are Chad too. So this isn't the average guy. This isn't, the struggling average dude. This guy's tall. He's in great shape. Looks like he played sports. Got the tattoos. He's good looking. Or, at least girls will find him good looking. So this is Chad. This is Chad's perspective. And he makes a good point that men who are high status like him and his friends do keep looking. That is true. And it is true that guys who are high status, when they have a girl, they have a decent girl, even though, that girl is really not, because she's with the guy because he's Chad, right? So, the red pill, we understand female nature, right? So if he's a high value Chad, she's going to be with him. She's going to want to do all those woman things because he's a high value Chad. If he was average or whatever, not tall, not good looking or whatever, then she wouldn't even want to be with him and she'd be out playing the field. So that's why the red pill is so important to understand these things. So he's coming at it from a Chad perspective. He's coming at it from a high value man perspective. He's not coming at it from everybody else's perspective. So he's saying that high value guys, when they get a good girl or a decent girl according to them, they're still looking to hook up. They're still looking for the next fling thing, which is true. And this is why women screw themselves with their own hypergamy, because they choose these guys that all the other women want. And they think, oh, I've got the good one. I know that all the other women want him. He's my number one. And then they can't figure out why the guy cheats on her. It's because he's got a million options. It's because he's, he has that option. So she's playing a hypergamy game. He's playing I'm a high value guy game, and it's just a recipe for disaster. Why these relationships don't work out.
Oh, just because like people get like an adrenaline rush from that. I think men are the issue.
How can men
He goes, I think men are the issue. And he's looking around like trying to assert his dominance everywhere. This is Chad. This is frickin' Chad, right? He's like, men are the issue, and it's just what did he say? He says,
clean, like they do everything for them. And
yeah, the woman cooks and she cleans, and she all of a sudden she's all domestic because she's got the high value guy. Isn't that weird how when women find the high value hot guy, all of a sudden they become all domestic and their little submissive female nature starts to come out? Isn't that funny? But when it's the average guy or the below average guy, then all of a sudden, she's a boss bitch and she wants to go be independent and go make her own money and go be a hoe. Like, isn't that funny how that works?
Still put that off for like some like one night stand hoe, just because like people get like an adrenaline rush from that. I think.
No, it's not an adrenaline rush. It's because men want sex. That's why. It's because men, I don't know, something about the way and this is a problem, with men, is that we have lust problems and we have sex problems. Our desire is to spread our seed. Once we get I was going to say good woman, but once we get a woman around, we tend to get bored and we tend to look elsewhere because we tend to want to spread our seed. It's, I should take that back, actually. I wouldn't say all men are like that. I wouldn't say all men tend to looking around. But if you're a high-value guy and you have the other options, men, and women do too. Women exercise their options too. So people who have options tend to exercise their options.
Men are the issue.
How can men combat their own lust?
I think you have to look deep within yourself and just kind of like accept the fact that like a million bodies is not better than one solid rock, like one.
That's a good analogy. I like that. That's a good point. Got to dig deep and be faithful. But are there women out there that we should really be faithful for? It's like, the more red pill you get, you realize it's all just a game. It's all just the odds are stacked against you to find a good, pure woman. and you realize that if a woman is with you anyways, it's usually because you're high value. It's not because she really loves you or whatever. It's because you're a good looking dude, you're high value, you got money. I mean this is the game. This is what, as humans, this is what we're doing, man. We're out here playing this game where I got to make a lot of money and I got to freaking have nice things and have a nice car, and I got my tattoos and I got my tan and I got my jewelry on, and it's like, cool, I got all that stuff. I got watches, I got cologne, I got cool clothes. I've done all that. At the end of the day, it's vapid, it's transient. It comes and goes. I had a bunch of friends who were cool. I've done all that. I played sports in high school. I've had tons of friends. I was popular in high school. I've done all that stuff, man. It's vapid, it's transient. It comes and goes. Once you fall off, once you stop being cool, once you lose your money, once you're no longer on the sports ball team, people forget about you. They don't really love you. It's all of a stage. It's all a facade. That's when I came to Christ, man. That's when I came to Jesus. Honestly, that's when I, sought a deeper purpose. And for me, it was reading the Bible and finding God, honestly, because I needed to figure out what all this was all about. What's the world all about? What's life all about? But that's not always everything. You still need money, you still need a woman and a wife, and that's why I make these videos and things like that, because even though I've got God and I found God, we're living in a degenerate culture. We're living in the days of Noah. We're living in the end times, and Sodom and Gomorrah. This is filmed in Miami. What are these people out doing? They're out partying, they're out looking to hook up. This guy's got a decent head on his shoulder. He's got a good perspective. Even though he's Chad, he's not an idiot. He's not a complete idiot. Even though he's got his own perspective, he's got his Chad perspective. He's got some thoughts going on. He's got some insight here. That's cool, but at the end of the day, these things are transient. His tan's gonna go away. His buff build is gonna go away someday. He's gonna be 50 someday, and when you're 50, it's like, was it all worth it for that one girl? It's like, I guess the question is like, I'm glad for me, even though, like I said, I got to a point where I figured out how to like be cool. I mean, what is cool, right? But like, I figured out how to like get a bunch of friends. I figured out how to, I like basketball. I made varsity in high school. I was good. I wanted to go to college, right? I figured out how to be popular. I would go to parties. I would get girls. I wasn't slaying. I wasn't killing it. I was still a little shy and things like that. But I wanted love. I remember I wanted love in ninth grade. I got my heart broke by a girl, and I was still cool. I was still on the sports ball team, but she still broke my heart because I wasn't too much of a bad boy. Women were always friend zoning me because I wasn't a bad boy. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I want love. Don't women want love? I don't understand it. I was too nice. I was too clingy, and I didn't figure it out. I was too blue-pilled. I didn't figure it out until like later on in my 20s, and I was like, oh, okay. This is a game. This is a game for women. This is some kind of fucked up nature dance where they're trying to seek the best guy who has all the good stuff. He's got all the success. And then I started figuring out female nature. That's when I got red pilled. And that's when I was like, okay, this is a bunch of bullshit. And I was glad that I learned that, because I was like, you know what? I'm glad I didn't find somebody who just loved me because I was on the sports ball team, who just loved me because I was popular, who just loved me because I was cool and tall, which I am tall, and I think I'm cool enough. I don't really care about cool anymore, but I used to when I was younger. I used to really care, and it worked, and I would like hang out with the cool kids, and I would be all like, say the right things, yeah, man, yeah, bro, all this kind of shit, all the stuff that these people do. I was doing that, and it worked, and I had cool friends who thought they were cool too, and we drink and party and all that, yeah, all that shit, cool. But at the end of the day, it was vapid. It was vanity. It was vanity is what it was, and yeah, girls would be interested in me because of that, because I was popular and shit. But they weren't quality women. They weren't quality girls who loved me, who really loved me. And I'm glad I didn't get one of those girls. I always wanted one, and I got girlfriends off and on, You know, I guess I did get those girls, but I'm glad I didn't get them for marriage or for long term, because I would have had to constantly perform. I would have had to be a dancing monkey for the rest of my life. Listen, I don't know this guy. I hope things work out for him, but like guys like this, they hit 50 and their women divorce them because they're no longer Chad. They get a beer gut. They're no longer cool, or the stress of having to pay bills is too much for them. And then they get a divorce because the woman's like, "You're not the man I married anymore," because he's not cool anymore, right? That's my viewpoint on it. Again, I wish this guy the best of luck. I don't know this guy, but I'm just saying that's my perspective on it, right? My perspective is that if a woman is not down with you and doesn't love you when you're at your lowest, you got no money, you're broke, you got no friends, you're down and out, right? And I've been there, and it's like no one loved me. No one, and women were looking at me like I was a piece of crap on the street. But I remember in high school, right, when I was on the basketball team, and women were looking at me like a lion looks at a steak, right? I remember that. Even though, like, once I got, I would get numbers and I would get, but I would take girls out and things like that. But I was too shy. I get nervous, and then they'd be like, "Oh, he's not a bad boy. He's not just going right for the sex." And then I figured out in my 20s how to do that. I figured out, oh, this is what I got to do. And then I did it, and I did get sex. And I was like, okay, this is just a game. Who's going to really love me for who I am? And I never found that. And that's the truth. I never found that. And it's, it's sad. It's sad. And I wish things were different. But this is why I make commentary on society. This is why I make commentary on, these people and things like that, is because I just look at it like it's sociology. I just look at it like, damn, I study people's behavior. Like it's interesting. Let's just keep going.
Solid foundation.
Do you think it's better to be single or in a relationship?
I think if you're young, and I think if you're like genuinely, because some guys will say, oh, like I'm grinding, or they're just fucking girls. If you're genuinely grinding and working on your craft, I think unless that partner is going to add into your life, it's better to be single. But I think I think once you're a little older, bunch of rats. I think once.
He's like bunch of rats. That's funny. I don't know what they said to him, but it's funny how these people are all in competition with each other. When you go out and like go clubbing and stuff, people are always in competition with each other, and there's like so much animosity. It's hilarious. But so he says when you're grinding, if she's not adding to your life, I mean that's true. But what are you grinding for, right? What are you grinding for? You're grinding for a woman. You're grinding for the money. So like what he's actually saying is that you have to afford a woman. You have to afford a life with a woman. And what that means is you got to make the money to get a woman. And so it's like, again, I just make commentary on the reality of things behind the scenes. People think, oh, you got to walk through the hoops of society and this is what you'll get. And it's like, okay, but what are you actually saying? You're saying a woman's not going to be with you until you're done grinding. And so he's saying that, if she's with you and she's adding to your life while you're grinding, that's cool, but otherwise stay single. And he's basically saying don't waste your time chasing girls when you should be grinding, which is good advice. I'm not saying that that's not bad advice, but my point is as a red pill guy, what are you grinding for, right? The woman is not going to be with you if you don't grind first and then make the money. So you're like, if you look at nature, birds, they make the nest first and then the woman comes, right? The female comes after the guy makes the nest. Well, you got to ask yourself, is that loyalty? Is that really love, right? She wouldn't be there if you didn't have the nest. Well, then she doesn't really love you. So you're buying a woman. That's been my point on this channel since day one. You're buying a woman, right? So that's what he's grinding for, to buy a woman, afford a woman.
You're a little older, I think it's probably better to settle down. I think it's better for your minds, especially if you find someone who like intellectually stimulates you.
What's your age?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point at the end. Yeah, you want somebody who intellectually stimulate you. You'll want someone who you can share your life with, a companion. Yes, but my problem with that is he says once you're older, in other words, go have your fun now. This is why I say you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't marry young, right, and you marry older for the companionship and the psychological stimulation or whatever, intellectual stimulation, then you're getting baggage. You're getting a woman who has all her past, and I don't want that. Guys don't want that. You know, you're marrying a slut, right? You're marrying an ex-hoe, right? What else would she be if she's been partying for the last 20 years, or she's been out dating guys for the last 20 years? What else would she be? She's a slut. Sorry. She's not just sitting around a virgin waiting for the love of her life. I don't know if any woman does that. You know, and you could argue, well, do guys do that? Well, I think guys have to do that. I think this guy's not an average guy. He's tall, good looking, chiseled jaw, in shape, got the tattoos. This is the guy that all the girls want to fuck. This is Chad. Sorry, that's Chad. All right. Got the charisma, got the nice teeth. He's probably like 6'3", 6'4". That's Chad. That's Chad. That's the so he's out here able to do that, whereas average guys aren't. Average guys are on their grind. That's true, because that's all they can really do. So that's the reality, man. That's the reality. So like, he's got some insight, but as a red pill guy, I just gotta call. You know, I gotta call foul on a lot of this stuff. You know, it's like, where's the loyalty? Where's the love? Where's the purity? Where's the decent woman? I can't find it. Not in today's women. Where are they? You know, I haven't found it. I've been dating since 1990, probably. Okay. You think, oh geez, how old are you? Like, well, I'm middle-aged, and I've been dating since I had 3 girlfriends, I think, in 1989. Those are the same year. All of a sudden, I thought to myself, hey, maybe I'll get a girlfriend. And I went out and asked a bunch of girls if they wanted to be my girlfriend. And 3 of them said yes. I remember that. And I think it was in the span of like a couple weeks. And they all 3 of them broke my heart. I remember that. And then I've been talking to girls. I've been chatting girls up my whole life. My whole life, I've been asking girls to be my girlfriend. My whole life, and it worked. You know, a lot of times I got rejected, but I've had girlfriends my whole life, man. Right? So, you know, I got some perspective. I got some insight on what I'm talking about, and I've not met any loyal women. They've always been, they've just always been hypergamous. They've always been, I mean, I think I had one in 8th grade. Who really liked me. And I think it was probably the truest love I've ever had. I really, really loved that girl. And then I messed it up because I cheated, you know, and that was my bad. And that was 8th grade. I think I was 14 years old. I really loved that girl. Her name was Stacy, man. And I think I screwed that up. But my question is, like, why would it only be one girl? Why would it only be one girl in my entire life, all the decades I've been on this earth? You know, where's the other good ones? And of course, when you're in 8th grade, it's like, you know, everybody's pure because you have to be, because you're 14. You know, so I don't know what became of her after that. I think I looked her up recently, or 5 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. When I say recently, I mean not like last week, but I looked her up once upon a time recently in the last 10 years or something, and I think she was married with a kid or something. So maybe she was a pure girl. I don't know, and maybe that was my chance, but it's like, all right, I made a mistake in 8th grade, and I didn't know any better. You know, I don't know. There was another girl, and I kissed another girl, and I felt so guilty about it that I told her. And I said, oh, because I really loved her, and I wanted to be honest about everything. We used to call on the phone and talk for a couple hours every night, you know, and it was sweet. I liked that, and that was, I wish I had that back now at my age. But you could say, oh, that was your fault. I don't know, man. It was 8th grade. Yeah, it was my fault, but, you know, I guess I made a mistake. I don't know, but where's my redemption, right? What happened? So it's like, after that is like, then it was just all these shitty girls, all the, you know, and I couldn't even find, even if I couldn't Could win for losing. Find a decent girl, man. Couldn't even do it, man. Never even had the opportunity after that. That was my one opportunity in my life, and I was too young to realize what I had. And, you know, I guess that's poetic justice or whatever you want to call it. Karma or just shitty luck or just shitty life, man. I don't know. You know? But it sucks being lonely. Men want wives. Men want love. And what do we have to offer? Or, you know, what do we have to look forward to? There's just a bunch of hoes, just a bunch of women who are trying to use us. I don't know, man. I don't know, but I can't tell you how many times a woman asked me how much money I made. Can't tell you how many times I was talking to a girl on a dating site and she said, "What do you do for work?" The third or fourth sentence in. Can't tell you how many times women have dumped me because I didn't make enough money, or women have told me that I'm a loser because I didn't, you know, make enough money. So many times since then, man. And I'm not saying I dated a million girls, but I dated enough to know what the hell I'm talking about. Tell you that. Yeah, I had one girl in 8th grade, Stacy, and I messed it up because I liked another girl and I kissed another girl, and I don't know what I was doing. You know, I'm not Chad. I know that. I just had an opportunity and I took it. But I'm not Chad. I got popular in high school and I was hanging out, you know, but I wasn't banging him out like I'm sure this guy is. So, but I figured out how to be a bad boy in my 20s, and I played the field and I got some karma from it. You know, the Bible says you reap what you sow, and as a Christian, I learned that the hard way. You reap what you sow. That's for damn sure. Got a lot of pain from messing with dumb little hoes, and if I could change it and turn it around and get one decent girl who really loved me, didn't care about my money, boy, I'd exchange it all in a heartbeat, bro. I would turn it all in. I would turn all those sex experiences in. They ain't worth it compared to one good girl. So he makes a good point as far as that goes, but where are you going to find one good girl? They still want you for your money. You still got to grind and make the money in order to afford them. Where are they, man? All these hoes out here. You watch my videos, you see them. You see all the hoes. That's what there is to offer, man. Anyway, this life is on its way out, man. The world is not much longer left. But anyway, thanks for listening. Peace.